course, they got to play Tennessee and Georgia, which there's no chance they'll beat either of those teams. So you could tack on 2 more. That's already 3 losses out of the gate. And then, I mean, I've seen people on social media last night saying that where is Florida going to finish in the East this year? Vanderbilt's not great. They squeaked out a win against Hawaii last weekend. But Vanderbilt beat Florida last year, and who's to say they won't do it again? So good win for Utah, especially with the backup quarterback in there. It's a great way to start your season with a win over an SEC team, despite the injuries that they had.
Absolutely. It was a good win for Utah. What do you think what do you think Florida's going to finish in the East, Katie Windham?
I don't know, because I haven't really done like a deep dive into the East and looked at all their schedules. But I mean, last night certainly wasn't an encouraging sign for Florida. Obviously, that's not a conference game, so it doesn't affect those type standings. But like Austin said, I mean, if you lost to Vanderbilt last year, which that game last year, I believe, was in Nashville, so I think it would be in the Swamp.
Lost Katie on a little internet, a little bit right there. That's okay. Austin, we're going to go just off rip. Georgia, maybe South Carolina and Tennessee. You can swap those 2 guys if you want to, 2 and 3. Kentucky might play it in that mix, probably at 4. And then you're looking at Florida in the 5 spot. Florida 5, Missouri 6 and 7 with Vanderbilt. So 5, 6, or 7 for Billy Napier. That's not going to make the Gators fans very happy.
Well, based off what I saw last night, I mean, obviously Missouri was playing South Dakota State, but I think in the first half they looked, solid. They came out. They had a quarterback battle similar to Alabama's, but they went with Cook, who was the quarterback for the majority of last year, and they got a win. So I think in that 5 spot, like you said, 6 spot is going to come down to Missouri and Florida. I think both those teams will finish ahead of Vanderbilt when all is said and done, but I don't think Florida's anywhere close to as good of a football team as South Carolina or Kentucky at this point. Despite not seeing either of those teams yet, I think that they just stack up better as a football team. And, of course, Georgia, Tennessee at the top, kind of depending on what happens in Knoxville. If Tennessee doesn't, stumble anywhere else on their schedule, obviously they have to come here to Tuscaloosa and play a game. So, Florida's going to, it's going to come down to just like it does always in the East when you're, deciding what the standings are going to be. Who wins those games when it's Florida versus Missouri, Florida versus South Carolina, Florida versus Kentucky? Those are the games that kind of build that East and figure out where the teams are going to be. Same thing goes for the West, though. So, Florida's got a long way to go, but it's week 1. And, I think you'll hear Billy Napier say it after the game and probably into this week that it's one game. They've got 11 more. And, you can turn this thing around pretty quickly if you just get the right players in there and get the right execution.
I'm going to do a quick reset because I failed. Oh, go ahead, Katie. I'm sorry.
We have some breaking news on Twitter. According to Chris Lowe, which I think a lot of us predicted this would happen, that he would get this. Chris Lowe, ESPN's Chris Lowe, just tweeted that Jalen Milroe will start a quarterback for Alabama.
Oh, no. Does one of us need to drop out and get right on that?
Yeah. I might need to. Maybe
it doesn't matter. I'll be happy to do that. That was the prediction. That is kind of the common knowledge that we all felt like. But feel free, I guess, whoever is going to jump out and go ahead and write that. That's more. You're more than welcome to join us when you finish that. It's no problem. But yeah, Jalen Milroe's getting the start. Oh, surprise, surprise. Okay, we're going to say goodbye to Katie. Okay, that's no problem. She might jump back into us with a little bit, and that's no problem. Jalen Milroe, and I'm actually going to hit that's perfect. That's perfect. I'm going to hit a reset because I did a poor job starting my recording, Austin. I think you might have noticed that. So we're welcome into the Joe Gaither Show. You got breaking news right off rip. Alabama's going to start off Jalen Milroe on Saturday. If you are living under a rock or not paying attention to anything going on fall camp, then that is news to you. But yeah, this is the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral, and we appreciate everybody watching us. And this is going to be a Football Friday episode with our friends Austin Hannon and Katie Windham. It's the BamaCentral staff hanging out on a Friday. Make sure you follow Katie at Katie Windham _ at Austin Hannon _ on the Twitter machines. And we're going to have a lot of fun talking Alabama MTSU, and that's a perfect transition, Austin, for Nick Saban last night, talking about what his quarterback plans were. And we've all kind of talked about, it's Jalen Milroe's job to lose. I'm going to play Nick Saban last night on Hey Coach, and we're going to react to his comments. It's about 1:15. This is Nick Saban on Crimson Tide Sports Network, courtesy of Crimson Tide Sports Network, with our friends Eli Gold and Tom Hart, who you'll hear on the television call this weekend.
But I do think one thing, and I know this everybody's sort of going to be interested in this whole quarterback situation, is the quarterback who plays on Saturday, that's the quarterback for Saturday.
Yeah.
And the life of a quarterback, on any quarterback, depends on how they perform. So if a guy plays well, that's what creates security at that position. And if you don't play well, because the first thing everybody does when you have success, the quarterback gets a lot of credit. But also when things don't go well, the first guy they point at is the quarterback. So a guy's got to understand that the way he performs is really, really important. And, all three guys have made significant improvement. We'd like to play more than one guy in the game. So I've told the guy that's going to start the game that we want you to play well enough so we have an opportunity to play other guys at the position because that's important for us. So we just have to go. But this is not, whoever starts the game, it's not their job in perpetuity. Because they have to perform well. And because they don't have a lot of experience, I think we're all interested in seeing how they all perform.
That's Nick Saban last night on Hey Coach. You can be at every Hey Coach episode right there at Baumhower's Victory Grill next to campus. Nick Saban making his first appearance last night with Eli Gold and Tom Hart, the special media guest. And now we know the quarterback that I told was going to start is Jalen Milroe. So, Austin Hannon, how long is the leash for Jalen Milroe tomorrow night?
Not long, I don't think. That's might be a personal opinion. I think that all offseason we've talked about this, and it's been such a big deal. And it's very funny that we just broke that news on the Joe Gaither show here on a Friday. But I don't think it's surprising. What we've heard over the last couple of weeks, it kind of seemed like they were leaning towards the veteran guy, Jalen Milroe, to start the game. Now, like Saban said over and over and over again, almost to the point where it gets annoying, this is not it, Joe. It's not going to just be, Milroe's the starter, game over. There you go, the whole season. It's going to come down to how does he play. And it's not shocking to me that he got the job. I think that was expected. And even, you've seen that I've, thinking that maybe at some point this season it's going to be a Ty Simpson thing, depending on how Jalen Milroe plays. And I want to see if the inconsistencies are still there for him. He's obviously, we all know he's a crazy athlete. He's one of the strongest, fastest guys on the field, and you could tell right when you see him on the field. But can he add anything to the passing game? Can he go out there and play with consistency, like Saban's talked about? Can he go out there and every single week, every single practice, show that he is the starting quarterback for this team? Because if you can do that, then let's do it. Jalen Milroe is the quarterback. Let's ride with it, and I think that he'll have a great season. Now, if he can't do those things, I think that opens the door for the other two. And so whether that means they play tomorrow night, I don't know how they're going to set it up. He didn't really answer if there was going to be a plan. Is Jalen Milroe going to get, any, kind of how a starting quarterback would any other time? Is he going to get to go out there and play most of the game until it turns into a blowout? I would think that would be a little disservice to the other two, just because I think that it is important to get the other two first-team reps before the Texas game next week. But it's up to Saban how he does it. I think all three quarterbacks could have success tomorrow night. So you might not see exactly what you want to see for the rest of the season just based off tomorrow night. And I'm going to have a story coming out about that on BamaCentral.com here soon about how this is not going to be decided tomorrow. This is not going to be decided probably even in the following days. It's going to be decided next Saturday night when Texas comes to town. And there's got to be some kind of answer from one of those quarterbacks, because that's a good football team that's coming in. And there's a lot of experience there. We saw what Quinn Ewers is capable of. And so if Alabama goes down a couple scores in that game and Jalen Milroe's struggling to pass the ball, where do you go? And so I think I've said this for a while now, but I think going into Tampa, Florida, going into that South Florida week, that's when you'll have your starting quarterback for sure. I think that it will be, the starter will be made in that game next week. But it's exciting. We have a game tomorrow, obviously, and I'm excited to see how Jalen Milroe does. And, let's see if he can take the starting job by the reins. And unlike, anybody's been able to do all fall camp and go out there and show why he should be the starting quarterback.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Jalen Milroe to have this opportunity. I think that he presents a great weapon for Tommy Rees, a great, versatile weapon. If, as you said, if he can master even take a small step forward in the passing game, I think we've seen that his arm is very strong. He's got a cannon he's got a cannon for an arm, but he's got a bit wild, and really the mechanics last year against Texas A&M were to put it bluntly, atrocious. They were not good. Hopefully, I kind of throw out what we saw at 8A, because 8A is just kind of a glorified scrimmage, a controlled practice that I think Nick Saban really wants to get through and not really show much at all in 8A. I don't know that he really improved a whole lot. Obviously, he can't hit the quarterback. And then we saw a little bit of that open practice, the same sorts of things, very vanilla, very controlled, very, we're not going to show anything. So I'm interested to see really two factors with Jalen Milroe. On Saturday, how will Tommy Rees adjust the offense around him? How will Tommy Rees scheme plays to put Jalen Milroe into, oh, this is an easy read. Oh, Ja'Cory Brooks is wide open. I'm throwing it to him. Oh, you got crossers going across the field. Burton and Bond going across the field. One of them breaks open, and I'm hitting that pass. Really, it's going to be up to Tommy Rees, in my opinion, to put Jalen Milroe in those great positions. Do you run Jalen Milroe? Do you put him in quarterback read? Do you put him in speed options? Do you put him in quarterback power and suck up the defense to make those passing reads much, much simpler? And if that's the case, well, can he execute those passing reads? So, Austin, I'll throw it to you, because we kind of talked about Tommy Rees's impact on this offense. And at coordinator media day, he basically said, oh, well, I'm here to run the Alabama offense. I'm not here to run the Notre Dame offense. Nick Saban talked a little bit last night on Hey Coach about how, Tommy's really implemented some of his concepts, but put them through the Alabama language, put them through the Alabama terminology. So we're still running the same system, but Tommy's just kind of put some of his ideas through the Alabama language. What do you expect tomorrow? We played 5 years, really, outside of 2020 with Mac Jones playing a really pro-style system. Running with Najee Harris and taking advantage of the play-action passing game to Devontae Smith. You've had probably 5 years of wide-open offense, dependent on the quarterback, Tua and Bryce. We're putting it in your hands, and y'all are going to read and react and throw the football. What do you expect with this Alabama offense tomorrow with the new quarterback, whether it's Milroe, Simpson, or Buckner under center? Really, the Tommy Rees concepts, how do you expect him to affect the offense?
Well, something has to change, right? I don't think anybody can expect any sort of the similar offense we've seen in, like you said, the last 4 or 5 years. I just don't think that that's doable with the options that you have at quarterback. I think you're going to have to do something different, regardless of who it ends up being. If it's Milroe, we talked about the Utah game a little bit. You saw what they did with their backup quarterback last night. The guy that they brought in the game, they started kind of changing the offense. They had 2 separate offenses with those 2 quarterbacks that they were playing. That's kind of what I expect from Alabama on Saturday and moving forward, depending on who it is. I don't think either Milroe or Simpson can run an offense like Tua and Bryce did. I don't think that that's really attainable with the talent that they have this season and the experience that they have. I just don't think that they're going to line it up in shotgun and throw the ball 35 times a game this year. I can't see that happening. If it's Milroe, I think tomorrow night they're going to just kind of try to do what they've been saying they're going to do. They're going to try to line up the Blue Raiders and run the football right at them, depending on, is that Milroe running the ball? Is that Jace running the ball? Is that Roydell running the ball? And I think it could be all 3 of those things. I think that they're going to want to establish the running game early and often tomorrow night. That starts the first drive. They're going to start showing Middle Tennessee State some stuff. I think they're going to test out that offensive line a little bit and see, hey, are they as good as they have been talking like they are? And, Saban the other night said, when asked about, hey, the mentality, JC and all these guys have said they want to dominate, they want to run the ball, they want to do all that. And he kind of said, show me, right? You got to show me. You can't just say that you're going to do these things and say that you want to be like the old Alabama, but don't actually go out there and do it. So I think that's what they're going to try to do early. I think once they get a little bit of a lead, because this is Nick Saban. Nick Saban never takes any opponent lightly. When the game is 0-0, he's going in there acting like it's LSU, Auburn, Tennessee. Until they get a little bit of a lead, I think that they'll try to run the ball early, put a couple touchdowns on the board, and that's when you'll let Tommy Rees kind of open up the playbook a little bit and see what Jalen Milroe can do in the passing game. And we'll see what happens. I think when Ty Simpson comes to the game, it's also a little different. I think that's the more pro-style offense that you were talking about, where it's run the ball up the middle, play action, short routes, stuff like that. If Milroe's in the game, maybe you incorporate a zone read game and a little bit of short passing game. But still allow Jalen Milroe to go deep with the football as well, because we know he can do that if he can do it accurately. So it's going to be different. The offense won't be like it has been, and I think that that's maybe a sigh of relief for some Alabama fans. The defense, that's the big thing. Can the defense be what they're supposed to be too? So run the ball, play defense, burn the clock. I mean, what do you think about these new clock rules, Joe? I mean, we got to see it last night. First downs and the clock's rolling. It felt really quick, like an NFL game almost last night. And I enjoyed it personally.
Well, for the television product, I enjoyed it as a consumer, but the subliminal effect is less football, more commercials. Less football, more timeouts, more commercials. We're burning the clock. We're still taking the same amount of commercials. I think in the stadium, when you're in there in Bryant Stadium tomorrow night, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it because it's gonna go quicker. But watching on television, and I know, look, the commercials, the advertising dollars, all hail the great dollar. I mean, obviously, and because that's what drives us all. But I think it's a big. I kind of think it's a mistake, but it's a mistake. It's we're protecting the player by taking 10 plays out, but really we're just sucking a little more ad revenue into the game. You're not the television, the viewing experience is still the same amount, the same 3.5, 4 hours that you're going to watch any other game. So yeah, the game moves quicker, but I think the viewing experience is not affected at all. I know last night for the Utah and Florida game, I think there was only 6 possessions in the first half. And so how does that create a sense of urgency for your offenses? And really, how does that – I guess that favors a defense. If you can get a stop, if you can get 2 stops in the first half, boom, you've probably taken away half their opportunities. I don't love it personally. I am partial to the clock stopping on the first down, resetting the chains. I think that's an extra. If we get a first down, we're going to buy ourselves 15 seconds to kind of get up to the line of scrimmage. Obviously, it's still going to stop late in the half. What, under 2 minutes or under 4 minutes, something like that?
Yeah, I think it's 2.
It's still going to stop late in the first half. I just think it's more, we're doing this for the players, and that's the public message. But really, we're doing this for the TV dollars. And so I wish you did just be truthful. We're doing this for the TV dollars. That's what it is.
Right.
You hit on really the talk, and that's where I want to go next. Alabama has talked a lot about the new Alabama or back to the old Alabama. Alabama is really, will we get back to running the football? The Alabama anaconda, as it used to be. We're going to choke teams out. It's going to be 7-3 at the end of the first quarter, and you're going to think, Alabama's not playing that well. At halftime, it's going to be 14-3. And, Alabama's not really dominating, I guess. But then at the end of the game, you're going to look up, and it's 38-10. It's 38 because the anaconda just chokes you out. And so, I mean, I'm more excited, Austin, about this year probably than I've been in probably about 5 or 6 years watching Alabama, covering Alabama, and it's all the unknown factors. It's the mystery of, will the defense be better, and will the offensive line have y'all been telling the truth? Are you going to man up and really move teams off the ball? I'm really excited about this year, and really I usually poo-poo on all the cupcake games whenever Alabama's playing, Middle Tennessee Tech or whoever they're playing, the School for the Blind and deaf on the first week. Last year, Utah State, I wasn't interested at all. 55-0. It didn't really tell you anything about the season. I think this year's Middle Tennessee game is so intriguing because all the talk in the offseason gets – I mean, look, I think we're all going to be in agreement. Alabama's going to walk away with a pretty comfortable victory, but it's going to be how they play. How will they cut down on turnovers? Last year against Utah State, he had six penalties. 4 of them were procedural penalties: offsides, false starts, and illegal formations, delay of games, those sorts of things. Will that be cleaned up? Will you run the football effectively? Will you be able to impose your will? I think it's really going to tell us a lot. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow because even though I think the outcome's not going to be in doubt, it's going to be interesting to see how the team plays. Will Kevin Steele blitz his tail off? Will Deontay Lawson be in the backfield all over the place? And, do you have depth across the board? I'm just excited to see, will the talk be backed up?
I think that's what makes week 1 so great. You've heard all these things. We call it talking season, and Deontay Lawson's going to be great, and all these guys are going to be great. The offensive line's going to dominate the game, and the running backs are great. Well, you have to actually show it, though. It's more than just, hey, we got a great team and all this and that. And I think that's what makes tomorrow exciting. We're going to get to kind of see the identity that they've been talking about. Can they, from the jump, like I said, can they run the football right at Middle Tennessee State, where I'm talking 5-6 yards on first down? That's when you start seeing a little bit of a difference from what we've seen in the last couple of years. And they need that. There is no Bryce Young back there to save you on 3rd and 16 like there was the last 2 years. You're just going to be probably out of luck if you get into that situation. So it's going to be so important to run the ball. But Katie missed us talking about Jalen Milroe, I guess. But yeah, it's going to be.
I was listening.
You can't. Okay, got you. He can't be Superman though, and Bryce Young could. That's why he was the first pick of the NFL draft, and that's why he's probably going to be an All-Pro later in his career. Is because he had the ability to do that, and I just think that especially early in the season, no matter who's in at quarterback, I don't think they have the ability to do that. So you're going to have to be good at the little things, and that's why Nick Saban brought Kevin Steele in. That's why. They beefed up the offensive line. That's why they did all these things, is so that they can play a little bit of a different brand of football where they can, run the ball, play defense, hold the other team to less than, 20, 30 points, and you'll probably win a game. So I'm excited to see if everything that they've been saying is true. And if it is, then I think Alabama's got a great chance this year.
All right, Katie Windham, tossed it to you. You just put out the report that Jalen Milroe will be starting tomorrow night. You guys can read that at BamaCentral.com and keep up with BamaCentral.com. With a Sports Illustrated home for all things Alabama-related. Football, of course, but really all the sports. So, Katie, 2 questions for you. 1, how long will the Jalen Milroe leash be? And 2, do you believe the guys? Do you believe the offensive linemen? Do you believe the coaches? Do you believe all the talk?
I believe them about running the ball. Sorry.
Yeah, do you believe that they're going to be what they've been saying that they'll be? Do you believe that they'll be physical? Do you believe they'll be able to execute in the running game? Do you believe that they'll be able to really be effective on defense? Cut down on the penalties, cut down on the mental errors, cut down on the missed tackles. Oh, the missed tackles. Do you believe the guys when they say, "Oh, we're ready to play old Alabama football style"?
I would hope that against a team like Middle Tennessee, no disrespect, but where you're going to be just physically so much bigger than them that you would be able to be physical and imposing and things like that. So I really think we'll get more of those answers next week. Like you said, last year in the season opener against Utah State, they had a lot of mental errors. To me, I think a big thing with this team, and you hit on it a little bit, Joe, is turnovers, but really for both sides of the ball. Offense has got to hold on to the ball, and defense, I feel like it used to be a staple of Nick Saban defenses, turning the ball over, pick sixes, not scoring non-offensive touchdowns. In the last 2 seasons, Alabama's defense has really struggled to force turnovers. And you've had really dynamic playmakers. You've had Brian Branch, you've had guys that have gone towards the top of the draft, and they've just struggled to get turnovers. And so that's something I'm going to be looking for on Saturday and throughout this season. And I think Milroe will have a little longer leash than Austin maybe. Based on what Saban's comment was last night on Hey Coach, him saying, we've told the starter we need you to play well so that we can play the other guys. To me, that means he wants him to build up a bigger lead. You get experience. You show us you're the starter. You take that job so that we can have confidence in you going into next week against Texas. So I think they'll let him ride it out for a little bit. I don't know, though. None of us know what their strategy will be. And I think it's good for Alabama this year. Last year, obviously, they didn't have the Power 5 opener either. But under Saban, that's kind of been a, staple until last year. That they get to, with this whole quarterback battle and experiment, that they're, getting to kind of soft launch into the season and give the quarterbacks an opportunity to figure some things out. And so it's going to be interesting for sure. But I think, we've seen, I can't remember if me and Austin were talking about this off camera or some during Just a Minute yesterday, but I think we were talking about it after. Saban doesn't really love to start the inexperienced guy at quarterback. I mean, you had Tua come in, and obviously his talent was always better than Jalen's. We've seen what Jalen can do now in the NFL and what he did at Alabama too, of course. But you had Bryce Young come in, highest rated freshman, highest rated recruit. He didn't start right away. So Saban likes to give, especially at quarterback, the nod to the more experienced guy. And Jalen Milroe is the only guy that has a start for Alabama. Tyler Buckner did have some starts in Notre Dame. But so it's not really surprising that Milroe is getting the start in this first game. But like Saban said over and over, the quarterback battle is not over. You have to prove that you're the job, you have to perform well. And so we'll know on Saturday if he performs well or not. I think a key for him will be not turning the ball over.
Well, Katie Windham's the only one of us who has stood on the Alabama sideline calling plays from her coordinator days with A-Day. If you were Tommy Rees, we kind of talked about that earlier about Tommy Rees's effect on the offense, or between Tommy and Coach Saban, how much of effect, how much of his philosophy, how much of his Notre Dame kind of background will seep into this offense, Katie?
I really don't think it's going to be that much. And even some of the things I've heard out of scrimmages is that it's almost like Alabama's running different offenses when Jalen's in at quarterback compared to Ty, because their skill sets are just so different. Even though Ty can run the ball too, as we've seen in his limited playing time in an 8A. But I think it's a very different group of skill players than he had at Notre Dame. Obviously, he's kind of known for what he did with the tight ends, and tight ends have not been a big part of Alabama's offense the last couple of years. And there's some talent in that room. I'm sure we'll see a little more utilization of the tight ends, but I think it's going to look pretty different than it did in Notre Dame just because the personnel you have is so different. And I think it'll look different depending on who's in at quarterback and, of course, who you're playing too. I think because obviously, which I'm honestly surprised that no one this whole week ever asked Saban or the players anything about looking ahead to Texas next week, and it's good that no one did, or they would have, blessed their soul. But yeah. But that is obviously looming in the background of that's what's coming next week. And so, you want guys to play well this week and really show you what you've got against a lesser opponent. Not that Middle Tennessee is just a team you can walk all over. As it's been well documented, they did win a bowl game last week. They did beat Miami, who was not a very good Miami team, but I feel like that detail's being swept under the rug a little bit, but good for them. Yeah. And so I think it's a good opportunity for these players to kind of get the kinks out of the offense. But also, I think actually the point I was trying to get at, but then I got sidetracked, was because Texas is next week, I don't think Alabama's going to fully open the playbook this week. I think there will be a lot of running the ball, keeping things more conservative. So it's just game one of a long season.
Well, Austin, I'll transition off that to really a take that I've talked about on the show before, that the Texas game, it's fun for the fans, it's fun for the media, it's fun for everybody watching college football, but ultimately for Alabama, the season really begins on September 23rd when Ole Miss comes to town. The Texas game was more, and this is just my opinion, and I'll get you to react to it, and please disagree if you want to, the Texas game is more of a glorified exhibition, more of a, hey, are we going to be ready for the SEC schedule? Because win or loss, obviously everybody wants to win, but if you lose and you still go out and win the West and you get to the SEC championship and handle your business in that fashion, you can accomplish all your goals. Really, in my opinion, you're going to go, you want to have everything settled and ready when Ole Miss comes to town, because Pete Golding's wants to coach for his name, and Lane Kiffin's always going to want to get one over on Coach Saban. What's your opinion of the value or the importance of the Texas game next week?
Actually, I do disagree with you a little bit. I think it is very important for a lot of different reasons. Obviously, you mentioned that it's not a conference game, so in terms of winning an SEC title, everything's there in front of you. But I mean, we're still in the era of a 4-team playoff, and so that second loss on your resume, we've seen it before, knocks you out. No matter if you think you should be. I mean, we go back to last year. That team was seconds away from an undefeated season, also seconds away from going 8-4, 7-5. And so all those losses, every play, I mean, in those games, matters so much, and so. I don't think that they want to, not necessarily that you're saying that they want to, but you don't really want to drop your one and only loss that you have that early in the season when you still have a lot of teams left on the schedule. You mentioned Ole Miss. You still got to play Tennessee and LSU. You got to go to Jordan-Hare. You're probably going to have to play Georgia, to A&M, where you lost 2 years ago. You probably got to play Georgia and Atlanta if you get there. So that would open yourself up to, you're going to have to be perfect after week 2 if you were to lose that game. And I don't think that's a position they want to be in. But in terms of, and not even just that, I mean, think about the eyes that are going to be on that game next week. All the attention, all the trolling that would happen if Texas wins that game. I mean, that's just not a game that they want to lose, especially after last year, kind of doing what they did with the horns down in Austin and everything like that. You're not going to want to lose that game with the schedule you have coming up. I do think it is a very important game, and it's going to really show us where the team is at. And I think if you want to take a positive from that game being that early in the season, It's that you're really going to be able to find out who this Alabama team is pretty early on. Obviously, not necessarily you're going to figure that out tomorrow, but next week you're going to know kind of what you're dealing with this Crimson Tide team. You're going to know who I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think you're going to know who the quarterback is after that game next week. I think it's going to really build or break this season, depending on how it goes. Obviously, you can still develop into a better team if you lose the game, but I think if they do lose that game, it's going to be an uphill battle from there after that.
Kenny Windham, where do you rank the Eyes of Texas on the fight song scale in college football?
It's a pretty good one. I don't know. I enjoy listening to bands, even though, now the Bryant-Denny press box is completely closed in, so that makes it a little more difficult. We do have the little windows that they'll open at the top sometimes, depending on what the weather is. But I don't have any strong opinions one way or the other, which I know that doesn't make good airwaves. But I do know, there's obviously a lot of the people frustrated last year about the only option Texas offering the band was to be to sit way up in the upper deck, but that's not how things are done in the SEC. So that'll be interesting to see next week.
Yeah, I think Alabama will host the Texas band in what is that, in the bottom northeast corner where they usually are. The road bands are. So I just personally I think it's one of the best fight songs ever. And when you get everybody in Texas singing it at you, I think it makes for an intimidating song. And with Austin saying the eyes of the college football world, it just triggered my ADD off on a tangent. Let's open it up to the rest of the weekend. I mean, obviously, all our attention on Saturday night is going to be Alabama and TSU. But where do we like to? I mean, the rest of the slate's kind of weak. You got LSU and Florida State on Sunday. You got the Battle of the Carolinas, South Carolina, North Carolina. Is we'll find out if Shane Beamer is about all that noise that they've been making. Austin, what do you think about the rest of the slate? Anything that's really, I got to watch that game, or I got to get after that game, or I want to pay attention to this squad? Oop, is Austin on mute? Or did I lose Austin?
Austin is
there
on
we
mute.
go.
He was on mute. I think Florida State and LSU is the game of the weekend. I don't think that's a hot take to say that. Everything that happened last year, the blocked extra point to lose the game for LSU. And if that had not happened, they could have maybe wound up in the playoff, depending on, obviously, that Georgia loss kind of hurt them at the end there. But
they also A&M at the end of the year, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
Like
okay.
4 losses.
Yeah, but I mean, we found out a lot about LSU in that game. We found out that Jay Daniels couldn't throw the ball at the beginning of the season, and they eventually got that figured out just in time for Alabama to come to town. Florida State, are they going to challenge Clemson in the ACC finally again? I don't know. It's all setting up for it to be that way. I mean, they got a great quarterback. They've got a very experienced team, and they're on their coaches in the 3rd or 4th year of his tenure there now. So things are starting to come together for both programs. I think LSU had a great year, obviously under Brian Kelly last year. Clemson will play Duke, I think, on Monday, right? We'll get to see Clemson for the first time this year later on in the weekend, on Labor Day, 3-day weekend for the people that don't work in sports. But, yeah, it's going to be an exciting weekend of football. Obviously, all the attention, like you said, is on tomorrow night at Bryant-Denny Stadium as beat reporters. But I will definitely be watching that Florida State LSU game on Sunday night for sure.
Katie, can I get you to bite on Colorado TCU, or are you going to be all in on the SEC?
I mean, I'll check it out. I don't know what time is that game on Saturday.
Early. Let me get the exact
11 a.m.
Yeah,
okay. I'll watch some of it. That's the thing. Like without having these, kind of the neutral site openers, I feel like it's not as much like there's not as many big games week one that like non-conference marquee matchups you feel like you have to tune into, but I'll check it out for sure. It's just good to have college football back on in general, just to have stuff. It was nice last night. Of course, I'm still locked into the Braves big series right now with the Dodgers. Last night, they held on for the win, but it's nice to be able to flip the channels and there be multiple college football options, and there will be even more Saturday, obviously. Thankfully, I don't have Spectrum up here, so.
That's become a big issue online. If you are watching or listening to us and you have Spectrum, you need to make an adjustment probably right now as they're in a dispute with ESPN and Disney. So if you want to watch Alabama or all the big games, you need to make an adjustment right now, or call them call, I guess, your cable provider and give them a piece of your mind so they get on the same page with Disney. All three of us are Alabama graduates. All three of us went to the Capstone, spent some time there. So outside of just the football, outside of what's going to happen between the White Lions, I'll start with Austin. What's your favorite aspect of Alabama game day? Besides, obviously, we're going to be focused on the game, but take yourself out of the beat writer mind and put yourself, I guess, back in the student or maybe as a fan, as an alum. What's your favorite aspect of the Alabama game day experience?
Yeah, I'm not going to try to, pull on heartstrings here, but just growing up, and my dad used to bring me here just about every weekend. We'd drive all the way down from Tennessee and back in a day trip. And I'll never forget just kind of going to the game with him. And we kind of had the same routine every weekend. And it consisted of driving the 4 hours to get here. And then we would go through Guthrie's, get some chicken fingers, take it to the quad or, anywhere we could find a parking place. Throw down some lawn chairs, eat, listen to, he used to pull out an old radio and we'd listen to Eli Gold do the pregame show and throw the football around a little bit. And I mean, this is when I was probably 11 or 12 and, we'd go into the game and yeah, right. Right. Thanks. I appreciate that. But we'd go in the game and
good.
We would stand on the fence before we go to our seats to the fence down by the field and watch the team come out of the tunnel and watch them warm up. And, just the whole, I guess, experience of going to an Alabama football game as a kid was so crazy. And, you just idolize, Coach Saban and the players. And it was just like everything to me on the weekend. And, now you cover the team and you start to figure out how all these people are personality wise and how they act and that they're real people. And it's just kind of a big whirlwind, but, it's definitely a little different. But I have enjoyed my adjustment, moving into the press box now on Saturdays.
Oh, man, the free food, the clean bathrooms, the air conditioning, you cannot beat it in the Bryant-Denny Stadium press box. I think it's I hear sometimes media members, the food wasn't good or whatever, and take it for what it is. But you're not paying for it, and it's all paid, and everything's right there in front of you. It's a great experience. Shady Windham, what about you? You grew up a big-time Alabama family. So what's your maybe non-covering the game favorite aspect of Alabama game day?
Yeah, our game days, what they looked like changed a lot, like the older we got, because then we started having sports on Saturday, so it would be like a volleyball game, then you're speeding up to Tuscaloosa to get there in time for the game, or my junior or senior year when I took the ACT the day of the Tennessee game, my dad was waiting in the car, ran outside, hopped in, dropped me off at the stadium. But I don't know, I always just loved the first game of the year, whether it was in Bryant-Denny or for so many years, the neutral site games. The first time the band is doing the pregame show and you hear the fight song for the first time, and it's just chills, So that was one of the favorite things I liked about game day. But it is also nice being in the press box, a little different perspective, a different type of stress working during the game than being in the game.
What I find about the press box is kind of like an unusual experience is the fact that there's so much, and it's not just the Bryant-Denny press box, it's really any of them that I've been in, it's peace in the press box, just as far as the tone and tenor. Everyone's usually quiet, paying attention and working, but outside is pandemonium. So it's kind of like a little slice of just, wow, what's the best way to describe it? Peace is the only word that I can think of. It's just so everyone's professional and respectful in the press box, but right outside is just pandemonium. And I love that contrast between the two perspectives. I think it's a lot of fun and very unusual to kind of experience.
Yeah.
If I could go ahead.
People maybe wouldn't expect that's what it's like. And so that's why I always kind of it's not it's completely silent in there. People are going to be talking some during it.
Murmurs.
There's no cheering, or there's not supposed to be. At some schools you'll find that. Won't name names on here, but it is funny though when it is kind of that silence or just the little bit of a murmur, and then something wild happens, there's just a huge hit or a crazy catch, and there's the collective gasp, or to me one of the wildest moments ever was the Iron Bowl 2 years ago in Auburn, and it's fourth quarter that because the Ja'Cory Brooks catch was in the corner of the end zone where Auburn has their press box kind of in the corner, and just the collective noise in that press box when Ja'Cory made that catch, because it was just, in a way, it's everyone's having to like now rewrite your story because you think Auburn's going to win, and it's also just like an incredible catch and play. And so I do enjoy that aspect of the press box, but it's almost like an alternate reality. It's almost like you're watching from outside. You're there, but you're not, because it is such a, especially the ones that are completely enclosed. Now, some schools still have the open air press boxes where you feel like you're part of the game and it's loud. But a lot of the schools now have moved to the enclosed, which I kind of like. The open press boxes better. I like being able to like still hear the crowd and the PA announcer and what's going on. Press boxes kind of have their own PA system set up where they'll say, you know, who made the tackle, who the penalty was on, whatever. But I kind of like the old school open air. I loved the old Bryant Denny press box when it was on the west sideline and open air on the 50 and was huge. The new one's nice too, but I liked the old setup.
Yeah, I was just about to say that, actually. I mean, if I could have it my way, I'd probably just punch open the window in front of me so that I can have my one slither of just out in the environment, because that's what it's all about. I mean, right? The reason we love doing this, especially me, I just love the environment. I love just everything that goes around outside of just what's going on the field. And so the band, like Katie said, and, you know, the music and the loud crowds, like that's what makes it all for me. So I definitely prefer having my little window open when possible up in the Bryant Denny press box, so that I can kind of take in all the sights and sounds and smells even during the game.
Oh man, I've got chills thinking about it. I'm more excited about this year than probably I've been really, I guess, maybe since the Jalen Hurts 2016 season. The unknown factors make me very excited to kind of see what it's all going to be about. We're running. We're almost out of our time today, and I really appreciate everybody hanging out with us. We're talking to Austin, Hannon, and Katie Windham on the Joe Gaither Show. The BamaCentral staff getting ready on a football Friday. It's going to be a lot of fun this weekend. Follow us at BamaCentral.com, at Katie Windham _, at Austin Hannon _ anywhere that you can get your social medias, you can find us right there. And so let's wrap it up with a little bit of expectations for the whole season for Alabama. And then, but let's start with this weekend. This weekend, Alabama is a 39.5-point favorite. And I don't really think any of us are gamblers, but I do enjoy paying attention to the line and kind of in my mind making a wager. I hate losing money. I love winning money. I hate losing money, so I just wager in my mind. What do we think about the 39.5-point line? I had Sam Doughton on the program this past week on Tuesday, the MTSU beat writer, and he described a lot of troublesome aspects, in my opinion, for the MTSU defense. The MTSU defense, he called them havoc plays. He said they thrived off havoc plays last season, tackles in the backfield, sacks, turnovers. They had 20 interceptions last season, lots of havoc plays. But he also said they give up a lot of big plays as well. And so I was thinking about the troubles we've heard through fall camp with pass protection, and I've heard, and then the troubles we've had with all of our quarterbacks about protecting the football. What do we think about that 39.5-point line? I see a lot of Alabama fans, a lot of them have been listening to a lot of radio. Oh, Bama by 50, Bama by 60, Bama by 70. I think I'm going to take in my mind, MTSU plus 39.5. Austin Hannon, we'll start with you. What do you think about that line and how it's going to play out on Saturday?
Yeah, I actually do lean Bama here. I think it's down to 39. Is it up to 39.5? I think they do cover that. I just think that they're going to wear Middle Tennessee State down by the end of it. And we don't really know too much about MTSU yet. We haven't talked about them much here on the program today either, but they don't really have that much experience on offense. And, you know, they've got a good running back. The quarterback has a very weird situation. He was kind of like Malachi Moore in the fact that he was the quarterback and then he wasn't. And then he came in for somebody that was hurt. And then now he's the quarterback again. And so there's a little bit of inexperience there, maybe a little bit of not as much talent they've had at quarterback in the last few years to run that pass offense. I don't think they're going to score that many points on what I think is going to be a really good Alabama secondary this year. And I just think by the end of the game, Alabama's just going to wear them down running the football. And it seems like in games like this, it's just like touchdown one after the other, you know, in the third and fourth quarter when it's just, you know, Jalen Milroe will be in there and get 2 scores. And by the end of it, I think they do cover that big number. But we'll see. It kind of depends on, like what you said about Middle Tennessee State. If their defense is all about creating turnovers and rushing the quarterback, then Alabama's got to be really good about not doing that. And Katie talked about the turnovers with Jalen Milroe. That can go really bad really fast. We know that they're a defense that wants to turn him over. He's had a tendency to do that in the past. If he keeps that under control, I don't think Alabama has trouble covering the 39-point spread.
All right, Katie, you got your own hypothetical $100. Where are you placing it on this weekend's game?
See, I've been going back and forth because I know you've been asking that some throughout the week, and I think you did a Twitter poll. And I originally voted that they wouldn't cover, but I think I'm with Austin that I think they will. I just think in the end it'll be too much because, like you said, sometimes sometimes in these games, in the second half you're just piling on with the backups, and then sometimes in the second half you don't score because the backups are in. So, but because I think Alabama is going to try and rep all these quarterbacks, I think there will be guys trying to continue to score. I think this defense is hungry and has something they want to prove early on, and is going to try and keep Middle Tennessee out of the end zone as much as possible. I'm just laughing thinking about last year's season opener when some people on our staff predicted Utah State to score like 3 touchdowns, and I was like, "There's no way that's going to happen," and it didn't. I won't be surprised if Middle Tennessee scores 1 touchdown on Saturday, but I do think Alabama will cover. I will not be betting on it.
No. If I could be comfortable losing money, I would gamble my tail off. But if it's just $1, I'm like, sick to my stomach. And like, obviously, if you're gambling more than $1. But it makes me so. People say, "Oh, it adds excitement to the game, Joe," and I'm like, I'm excited enough already. I don't need, and I can play the wager in my mind without losing the dollar. Who was it? Brad Nessler. You've had several commentators that like to place a wager. Brent Musburger likes to place a wager, and so they'll kind of wrinkle some of those commentaries into their broadcast, and so I will play off their money, not my own money. And so, yeah, I agree with what you said. Look, Austin hit it. The Alabama secondary, I think, is going to be so nasty, really, really stingy this coming season. Coach Saban last night on Hey Coach, and we'll just kind of throw this as a sidebar, talked about he was asked about depth, and he said linebackers and secondary, he wasn't really happy with the depth. I think the first line guys he is very happy with, but he was talking about developing those kind of secondary pieces. Austin, you want to elaborate on the secondary real quick? I mean, obviously we all love Kool-Aid, we all love Malachi Moore, and Caleb Downs has a lot of juice behind him as a freshman, but just want to elaborate on the secondary because I think that's going to be probably the strongest area of the Alabama defense.
We talked about depth. They've absolutely got that. You're talking about Kool-Aid McKinstry. He's going to be a first-round pick next year. Terrion Arnold, who I thought looks great in the open practice. I think that they've talked really highly about him. He's going to get his second full year starting at probably the other cornerback position. How about Malachi Moore? I think he's one of the most exciting players on this football team this year. If you remember 2020, I mean, he was one of the best players on that national championship defense, forcing turnovers and making tackles in open space. And then, of course, Brian Branch came in and stole his job. And now that he's off to the NFL, Malachi has it back. And so everything's back to normal for him. And Caleb Downs is going to be a superstar. I really think that he's strong and fast and can play that back line so well. Jalen, I mean, there's so much depth. You got Jalen Key and Christian Story. And when Devontae Smith gets back from injury, maybe he goes into the starting safety position. So there's so much talent there. And I think that they're going to be able to really move. Earl Little Jr., you're going to be, you just move people in and out depending on who's playing well, who's not. And I think that most days everybody is going to be playing well, and they're going to be able to just kind of keep fresh legs on the field. And especially against the Middle Tennessee State offense that wants to throw the ball so much, you're going to see a lot of in and out substitutions with defensive backs tomorrow. We're going to get to see a lot of them and see how they do against a team that wants to throw the ball all over the place. So they're an exciting group, and I think it's going to be one of the best parts of this team this year.
Absolutely. That's why a little bit surprised me that Nick Saban said he wasn't really pleased with the depth on the linebackers and the secondary. Katie Windham, obviously the quarterbacks have all the focus, but outside of the quarterbacks, and now Austin hit the secondary, so don't pick them as well. What's your favorite or most intriguing or kind of this position group makes me excited for this season?
I think it's got to be the running backs, just to the other side of the ball. That's like been the one position group that Saban has like consistently been like positive about and like said we're happy with them as long as they don't get injured, as long as they stay healthy. We're happy with the depth. I think, and it's like the perfect balance too of experience with Roydell and Jace that are seniors that have gotten a lot of experience in the past. Then also some young guys with Jay Miller and Justice Haynes. And then you also have Richard Young, which you would think you don't need your fifth running back, but we've seen the last couple of years when Alabama's got to a point where you may need that. And And it's also nice just to be able to have fresh legs at that position and rotate through. And so I think with an offense that said they want to be more physical, that said they want to run the ball more, that you have these guys that can do that. I think that's going to be a really exciting group to look at this season, and maybe kind of have an exciting freshman running back for the first time in a couple of years.
Absolutely. All right, we'll wrap it up with the big question, the main thought. Will Alabama get back to the college football playoff, win the national championship, reestablish the Bama standard? I got a gut feeling that they will. I got a gut feeling that maybe it's going to be 11-1 and probably taking down Georgia, taking Georgia to the wire, and maybe making a case for the college football playoff. I just got a feeling with these guys. Maybe I'm suckered in, maybe my crimson-colored glasses. Maybe I'm just too close to the talk and chatter, and I believe people when they tell me things. So I just got a gut feeling that it's going to be a great season. We'll wrap it up with Katie Windham and Austin's prediction. Katie, you're going first this time. What's your kind of season, big picture view from 10,000 feet up for this team?
I think Saban's comments last night were really telling when he said, I don't know if we have the talent, but there's a lot that I like about this team so far. Well, I think most people would say Alabama does have the talent because of the recruiting. They have one of the most talented rosters in the country. And so if history, it's almost like, yes, there are a lot of questions about this team, and I don't know what to expect in some regards. But history would tell me that Alabama will get back to the playoff and win the national championship, because if they don't, this would be the longest stretch under Saban that they don't win a title. And so I think last year everyone was so certain. You had the best offensive player in college football. You had the best defensive player. You lost in the championship the year before. This team's for sure winning a national title, and some things just fell apart last season. And so I think this is a group of guys that wants to reestablish that Bama standard, and obviously the pinnacle of that is winning a national title. And so I think this team can do it. Will they? I don't know. That's the $1 million question.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a hard time saying that they're going to do all these great things, because on paper they're probably not the best team in the country at this point in time. But what I've said on other radio shows, I'm going to continue it on yours, Joe. I just think that there's something there in this team, and I just think that all the other things that we've seen in the past, where new quarterback Alabama just seems like always ends up being just a great football team. Katie's stat, which I've been using all offseason and crediting her, that it just doesn't happen. Nick Saban always figures it out once every 3 years at least. And in a time when Georgia's at the top, and that's bothering him, that's bothering this team. And the three-peat is so difficult. Alabama was inches away from the kick six not happening and probably winning that third straight national championship. It still hasn't happened in almost 100 years. It just makes it hard for me to, and with Stetson Bennett gone now, and a lot of talent Georgia's lost over the last couple of years, it makes it hard for me to think that Georgia's going to win it again, especially with that tough game in Knoxville, especially because they're going to have to play a good team out of the West in Atlanta at some point, this case it being Alabama. I just think that this is the year that they finally kind of figured it out. It's been 2 frustrating seasons. And even 2 years ago when they made the national championship, there was frustrations with that team. I mean, there were a couple of games that were too close. You think back to the game in Gainesville, and obviously the game in Auburn that Katie mentioned earlier was just
LSU at home that year.
LSU at home. LSU was not a good football team. That was Coach O's swan song at Bryant-Denny Stadium. There was just so much bad football play that year, and they kind of stumbled into the national championship, had a lead in the fourth quarter, and then ended up losing it. And then last year, like Katie said, it was just frustrating. There was a couple games here and there where they probably should have won, but they didn't. There was a couple games where they probably shouldn't have won, and they did. And they lost 2 games, and they didn't make the playoffs. So this is a proven year for Alabama. I think that everything's kind of coming together. I think if they are about what they say they're about, that I think they get to the playoff. I think they do beat Georgia this year in Atlanta. I think they win the national championship down in Houston. And I think that everything that everybody said over the last year or two kind of once again kind of gets put into a reel on YouTube about compilation of people saying Alabama football's done, Nick Saban's done, and we add a little bit of stuff more to that.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to do it for our show today. We've had a lot of fun talking with Austin Hannon and Katie Windham. Make sure you're following them on social media, especially tomorrow for all their coverage at Austin Hannon _, at Katie Windham _. Follow at BamaCentral on the X Twitter machine. We're all over all things Crimson Tide. We're going to be in the press box. What do y'all have? 4 or 5 guys, 4 or 5 people in the press box tomorrow. So every angle will be covered on BamaCentral.com, and we're going to cover it all season long. I mean, we've been covering it since the start of fall camp. It got rolling 30 days ago roughly. So we're right there in rhythm. Make sure you're following us at Bama Central, and then if you want to watch any of the videos, you can follow us at Bama Central on the YouTube channel as well. We were out at Alabama soccer last night, a frustrating draw with the Miami Hurricanes. So you can see West Hart, Sasha. Let's see. Oh gosh, I just lost her last name. Sasha and Kate Henderson were on our post game as well, so you can see that on the Bama Central YouTube channel. Katie, Austin, thank y'all so much. We got to do it again soon. Hope you guys have a great time in Bryant-Denny Stadium tomorrow. Any last words for the people before I kick you out of here?
I don't know. Just be excited, I guess. It's exciting. I mean, I'm just thinking about walking into the stadium tomorrow, and it's got me fired up. So another year's here, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Tune in to Bama Central for all your game day coverage.
Absolutely. There's the beast, Katie Windham and Austin Hannon. They're going to be the lead dogs tomorrow in Bryant-Denny Stadium. They are writing all kinds of things and leading all of our coverage. I really appreciate their time today. Make sure, again, follow them. I'm following them at Katie Windham _, at Austin Hannon _. I'm taking all my leads from them because they are the professionals right here at BamaCentral.com. You're going to want to follow everything right there at BamaCentral.com all season long. I want to thank all our guests. Oh my gosh, did I have guests all 5 days? That is a blessing from God, not my doing, but his doing. We had Austin Hannon and Katie Windham today. On Thursday, we had Jay McPhillips from Yale, Alabama. On Wednesday, we had Darren Mustin, former Alabama linebacker. On Tuesday, we had Sam Doughton, MTSU staff writer. And on Monday, we had Eric Anders, former Alabama linebacker. Both the honorary captains joined us this week, and I'm so blessed, and I appreciate everybody for joining us. It was a great time. Next week, it's Texas week. On Monday, we're going to react to the game. We're going to have all kinds of thoughts and comments from the ball game. Tuesday, oh my gosh, we're having Kirk Bowles. Kirk Bowles from Major. He's been covering Texas football for longer than I've been alive. So you're going to want to hear Kirk Bowles break down the Texas Longhorns. And we're going to be working to find other guests next week. We're going to make it an interesting Texas week. I am so grateful for everybody watching us, listening to us. You watch us on Spotify, or on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. You listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Amazon, and Spotify. Tell a friend about the program. Subscribe, rate, and review. We're covering all things Alabama all season long. Enjoy the weekend. Be at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Be under the lights. Celebrate Jalen Milroe's start. You can read about that on BamaCentral.com. Katie Windham just wrote that. Jalen Milroe will be your starter, and we'll get out of here for the day. This has been another great week on the Joe Gaither Show. We'll be back on Monday on the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com.